Hello lovely people, this is going to be another amplifier distortion video. However, in this one is going to be a bit more interesting. In this video, basically I'm going to tell you why you should not really trust whatever is floating around on Facebook. So, a lot of us take a lot of information from online, from forums, mainly from Facebook and car audio groups and that kind of stuff. So what I did, I made a kind of phishing post in a few different groups. The post was this: which one is better for SQ, Audison or the Alpine? And these are two amplifiers, Audison Voce AV Quattro and Alpine MRP F600. Now the Audison amplifier is very well known. It is quite an expensive amplifier. It costs about £1,000 in the UK. Not sure how much is it in American dollars, but it is a very expensive amplifier. It's a big class AB amplifier. And this Alpine F600, not many people really know it. I believe it's one of the last class AB amplifiers, like quality AB amplifiers that Alpine made. And basically asked the question, very vague question, which is better? And I let people vote. So the first post I made was in one of my favorite groups, which is an expensive car audio. And the results are exactly as I predicted. I have only 3 people voted for the Alpine. This person, Vincent, probably knows what's up, so that's why he voted Alpine. And the vast majority, which is 24 votes, everybody went for the Audison. Because why shouldn't you? In the comments, I found this one, which was very funny. This looks like a setup. Indeed, it is. Now, I made identical post in a different group, which is this one. So this group, I'm not bashing the group or anything, but this group runs on totally different principles than inexpensive car audio. So the funny thing is, online I am known as a person that gets into kind of arguments. And this group, you can see it's written in Russian. So in this group, there's a lot of people from like Eastern Europe and Europe in general, whereas the inexpensive car audio is from America. And here we have admins from like my time zone, and we see posts approved 40 minutes ago, 3 hours ago, 3 hours ago. So posts are being approved by admins. However, my post is still pending for 7 hours still, and I'm not sure if it will be ever approved. Exactly the same post, exactly the same questions, but it's not approved. So that might tell you something, but let's go back to this. What's happening online in a lot of Facebook groups and a lot of forums is that people are transferring knowledge, I want to say, is mouth to mouth. So whatever they hear, they pass it on. And if a certain brand is talked about a lot, especially in a good way, it's gonna get recommended. And if people don't talk about the brand or talk poorly about it, it's not gonna be represented. So take for example Scar. Everybody hates Scar, everybody calls it trash. Is it? I don't know, but that's what the general consensus is. So, as expected, these results are not surprising at all. Everybody is voting for Audison because Audison, everybody knows, is an SQ brand. They make expensive big amplifiers, and these, apart from like the Thesis series, one of the best. There's loads of them floating in the UK, and everybody seems to love that. Now, all of these votes, and this is happening on Facebook in general, that people are basing their opinions on other opinions and not based on facts. The funny thing is, I have measured both of these amplifiers. So I have the F600, that's my own personal amplifier that I bought in a brand new condition, and I did have the chance to measure the Audison Quattro under identical conditions using the same equipment and gear, and in this video we're gonna compare them. And we're gonna start with the typical spectrum of 1 kilohertz. So this is a measurement of the Alpine. So I did measure all 4 channels of the Alpine, and all of the measuring very similarly. And here at the bottom, I do have all the Audison measurements. So let's have a look. Alpine, 1 kilohertz, 10 watts. Audison, identical. So yeah, this and this identical measurements. There is a little bit tiny difference, however, that difference could be just because of the error in measurement, and I do see bigger differences between the channels of the same amplifier. So if we're going to have a look at the actual numbers, we have, for example, signal to noise ratio 90 in Audison, 90. THD plus noise 0.016. That's the Audison. The Alpine 0.012. Almost identical, and everything else kind of identical. So this is 1 kilohertz. Let's have a look at intermodulation distortion. This is 60 and 7K for the Alpine, and this is 60 and 7K for the Audison. Identical. We can say this identical is slightly bit more distortion for the Audison, but we can say it's identical. Let's have a look at the higher frequencies intermodulation. 18 and 20K for the Alpine, and the same for the Audison. Identical. Again, almost identical. That is slightly different. This spike, we can ignore it. So that's the power supply at like 28 kilohertz, doesn't matter. But everything else is identical. Let's have a look at multi-tone distortion. That's the Alpine, that's the Audison. Identical. Let's have a look at the frequency response. This is, again, very zoomed in scale, 1 dB scale. This is the Alpine, 22 measured up to 50K. We know all the Alpines measure super flat all the way up to 50. Audison, slight roll off, but we can say up to 20K. It's half a dB down at 20K. We can say it's almost the same. Okay, let's compare THD versus frequency. Okay, this is the Alpine and this is the Audison. Slightly higher, but we can say almost the same. There's like difference between 0.1 and 0.17. It's nothing. So yeah, kind of the same. If we have a look at the noise, the same. THD itself, the same. Second harmonic, the same. Third harmonic, almost the same. There is a slight difference. So the only difference that you can really tell between these two amplifiers is the THD versus level. So THD versus level for the Alpine, channel 1, channel 2, channel 3 and channel 4. We can say that everything apart from channel 2, these are measuring very similar. I'm going to just remove this one. These are identical. So let's leave the channel 4, which is this, and then let's have a look at the Audison. And this is the Audison. And this is the biggest difference between these two amplifiers. The Audison has more cleaner power. If we're talking about the total power that these amplifiers do, so the Alpine does 100 watts up to 1%, and the Audison does 130 watts up to 1%. So if you're using these amplifiers for mid-ranges and tweeters, which a lot of people use the Quattro for mids and tweets, because for mid-bass they're using the Duo, which is the 2-channel, much more powerful one, up to 20 watts, the Alpine is a little bit cleaner than the Audison. If you push it more for mid-bass, yes, the Audison is quite a bit cleaner at the higher power levels, about 50-60 watts, but this is not a range for the mid-range and tweeters. This is solely for mid-bass. Even for like SQ levels, 30-40 watts, like 30 watts for mid-bass is quite a lot, and the difference is not that high. But for mids and tweets, if we're talking 1 watt up to like 20 watts, the Alpine takes the edge. Now, why am I showing you this? If we're gonna come back to this, based on this, what people say on the internet, this Audison Quattro should obliterate the Alpine. However, for SQ, for mids and tweets, it's quite the opposite. And I'm making this video not to bash Facebook, not to bash the groups, not to tell something bad about the people that voted. What I want you to pay attention is the facts, because a lot of stuff online is not based on facts, but based on opinions that are taken from other opinions, from what other people say, and from what they see in the pretty pictures. And what I want from you is be critical, get the facts sorted before you make a decision, any kind. And there's one comment that kind of sums everything up, which is this. Travis says, according to the specs, they look pretty similar unless I missed something. And yes, they're not pretty similar, they're extremely similar. Based on objective measurements, they're not similar, they're almost identical, especially in this 10 watt range where all the measurements are made. They are performing identical. And no matter what people say, I have 100% confidence that if you would put these two amplifiers head to head on a blind ABX test, I guarantee that nobody would be able to tell them apart. And again, this is happening all over the place with everything: speakers, DSPs, amplifiers. Most of the stuff, like 99% of the stuff, is based on opinions that have absolutely nothing to do with facts. And this is sad. And this is exactly what I'm trying to do with these videos, to provide you some proof, something tangible that you can rely on. All my speakers have like distortion measurements and frequency response measurements. All the amplifiers that I test have all of this, because what I want you to take from all of my videos is not my opinion on something. I can tell my opinion on something, but I'm presenting you with data with which we can easily compare something. Now, yes, probably some people in the comments are gonna say that, oh, the Audison has a higher slew rate or a higher damping factor or that. How much that stuff matters? Magic pixie dust? It's up to you. I am 100% convinced that nobody would be able to tell these two amplifiers apart. And I wish that we could do a test, a blind ABX test. I could provide this Alpine amplifier. Somebody in the UK could do this Audison, because there's loads of them floating around, and then we would be able to compare. But unfortunately, that is never gonna happen. So again, be very careful where you take your information from, and I hope that this is gonna be approved. Maybe, or maybe it's gonna be declined. I don't know, we will see. But I guarantee in this group, this is gonna be 100% and 0%. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.